Hello, welcome to the Pastor and Professor. Doug, what's happening?
Hey, everybody. Oh, man, just a normal week here in Southern California.
Nice and warm for you there, Doug. You said it was cold today.
It is, relatively speaking, cooler for us in the 60s.
5 degrees to here today, Doug. It was
Yeah.
5.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. So, how was your week?
It was good. Got back to work. Car's still kind of in a limbo place, but it's drivable. So back to the grind and making some money out there and, doing my thing on the roads of Southern California. I'm sure you're not envious of that.
Well, no, I'm not envious of that. But no, I don't miss those days in the 405 stuck. No, or the 101. Yeah. No, not at all.
Yep.
60 was
there
bad.
You go.
60 was always bad.
Oh,
60s was always a cluster. It was just, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah. I don't think there's a good freeway in our area. So
no, not at all. We had talked to my friend Scott and I talked about that. I'm trying to adjust the music. We're getting some kind of background noise. we had talked about the difference between LA traffic and Chicago traffic in our show last week or something. And yeah, the difference is that LA traffic is confined to the highways. I will take LA traffic any day over Chicago traffic. Because Chicago traffic, and Annetta, she's going to be on a little bit, she'll attest this. Anywhere you go, it's all the roads, it's all the cross streets and everything else. It's not just the highways. It's a disaster. So even though the highways are probably worse in LA, it was, I'll still take LA traffic, but I miss it.
There you go.
I miss it.
Yeah.
My week was pretty good. I did a show with Juju this week. I don't know if you caught that. So I did a show on, I don't even know what night it was. I don't even know what night this is. This is Wednesday. On Sunday, I guess we did it. We did a show on the best logos and best team names in sports. And Juju ended up co-hosting it with me. Cubby was on it for a segment. But, yeah, Juju did awesome. She, totally rocked it. She found all these great logos and team names. And yeah, it was great. So you should, definitely check that out. So
awesome.
We have a very exciting night tonight because we have two very special guests. Our better halves are here. Our wives are here to join us, and we don't really know where it's going to go. We will see. We may be in a little bit of trouble, Doug. We may not get our show back. People in my family tend to hijack my show recently. Gave Ned a little bit of screen time, and now it's like, can I get on? Can I get on? Can I get on? Just joking. It's not that bad. Then Juju and everything else. But yeah, so our wives are going to join us. That should be cool.
Absolutely, and it may just be a factor of people once they get a taste of our better halves, requesting them to take over. They may not have that much ambition, but they may be stars in the making. So
it's a good thing I have another show.
Right,
we may lose this one, although she was on that first one and was a huge hit with her ridiculous take on movies. So I'll give her a little flag for that a little bit later. But I have a couple announcements before we get started. And first of all, I guess I always want to thank everybody for watching the replays, commenting on our Facebook posts and our TikTok pages and things like that. We've gotten a lot of views on the segments we pulled out, particularly the one I pulled out on sharing my story, which was really difficult for me, but I continue to hear from people on that. And I hope that gets easier, but it's Doug, you had shared something with me earlier, Doug, that people on your end said, they enjoyed, hearing the story. So,
yeah.
So that's one thing we want to continue to do is, we told our stories those first 2 weeks. We had Karen on our third episode, and we want to, definitely the main things we want to do is we want to bring people on and have them share all or parts of their story and their journeys and their walk with God. So I'm looking forward to that's what Annetta and Monica are going to do here shortly. And then I have some other fun things planned. And I didn't even tell Doug. I told him I had something going on, but he doesn't know exactly what. So we will go there. So a couple announcements real quick. We will dive back in. We're going to take the next 5 weeks after this episode to dive deeply into Doug's book. So we'll spend at least half the episodes the next 5 weeks and possibly more because us or one of us but we get Doug talking about his book. He might stop either. So we're going to dive into the 5 I can't even say that word, foundational identities of the church from Doug's book. So we're going to dive a little bit deeper into those over the next 5 weeks and spend probably at least half the show, if not more, on that. So we really want to encourage people to go out and get the book if they have it. I know Doug's working on an audio thing. It's not going to be out for a while yet, but he's working on an audio version. But it is available on Amazon, and if you're a Prime member, you get it in probably a day. And if you're in LA, Chicago, places like that, you probably get it the same day. And I think it's on Kindle as well if you're a Kindle reader. I don't know how that factors into your profits on that book, Doug, so I don't want to promote the Kindle part.
Same percentages, so It's all good.
All right, so if you have a Kindle or e-reader, you can do that as well. So I definitely want to encourage you, and we have had several people talk about they've started reading the book. I had actually talked to an old friend that reached out to us last week, and we met on the phone, and we were talking about books, so I'm sure he's probably listening tonight. So Paul, if you're there, hello. And if you are listening to us, please say hi in the chat. If you hear anything tonight that you kind of resonates with you or whatever, feel free to say put the comments in the chat, either on YouTube, it's in comments, or in chat rather, and Facebook, it's in the comments. We will get them, and we might bring you on stage a little bit and say hello. But please, we'd love to hear from you. It makes it a lot more fun for us when we see people are interacting with the show. So definitely go out and get the book. We're going to dive deeper into that. It's a really fascinating read, an easy read. And yes, Doug, Annetta is Juju, or Juju is Annetta. She did not change her name. Sorry. All right. So next, my new show, Heartbeat Radio, was a big hit that first week. So I'm really excited about that. The next episode of that launches tomorrow. So it's actually a part of the Pastor and Professor podcasts. So that is just on Spotify. The Heartbeat Radio is just on Spotify. I have episode 2 dropping tomorrow. It's going to be every Thursday at noon. I just did say that, didn't I? I said it's dropping. I did.
It's dropping.
It's dropping. Listen to me.
You're so cool.
I know. So that's coming out tomorrow. I really don't know. I have several episodes, like 4 episodes that I've kind of created. I don't know which one I'm doing tomorrow. So we will see. So that's coming tomorrow and every Thursday. You can subscribe to that. And while you're doing that, the audio version of our shows are now available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcast. So if you are in the car, driving around LA or Chicago for lengthy times, or mowing the lawn or shoveling the snow up here, you can listen to the audio-only versions of the shows as well. There's a couple glitches in there because it's, we've designed the show for video, but we're going to be more conscious of that as we go. So anything else you want to add, Doug, or talk about or say or shut me up?
I'm good, bro. I'm ready. Let's take the next step here.
What's that line in Major League? He's not the best color commentator in the league for nothing, folks.
That's right.
All right. Let's have Netta and Monica unmute themselves. And we are going to bring them on stage. Get Monica unmuted here.
Hello.
There they are. And there they are. There are our beautiful wives. Hold on.
Hello, everyone.
I have to get the applause button out. I think it's the only sound effect I have in the show. So, welcome.
Thank you.
Say hello. Say something.
Thanks.
You're going to make me pull
Nice
teeth
to
all
see
day?
you. We're here.
I can do it. I can do it. So, thank you both for coming on the show. After last week's show, we kind of set this up like immediately after the show, and hoping that they would want to come on with us. So, I didn't really tell Annetta till today or yesterday. So I didn't really get it confirmed. But she's a trooper. By the way, you're going to come on my show, which again, she can act like she doesn't want to, but she has the bug now that she's done the first one.
It's out of my comfort zone, but I like it now. Yeah. So it's now that I've stepped out, it's like now it's no longer a risk for me, and I can come back on anytime.
Well, you've done great. You've been a big hit. And that's why I say I'm worried about you're going to take over my shows. But so I am her level is high. Yeah, I know she's a little high. I don't know if you can turn your mic her volume down. I don't think it matters at this point. She's a little high. I can kind of work with it in post for the replay. Anyway, so we are going to listen to a little bit of their stories. I asked them to kind of share their journeys like Doug and I did that first week in any fashion they want to. They can go as deep or as shallow as they want to, whatever they're comfortable with sharing. But I'm interested in hearing. And actually, before we get started, I have a clarification, I guess, and question. So tell me the story. You guys met. Did you guys meet at LAX?
Not initially, but in the span of the 3 days where we did meet, that was the last place we were hanging out.
And after 3 days, you asked her to marry you?
Yes.
You want to expand on that a little bit more?
I will. It's a God story for sure. I was the lead singer. Obviously, we've looked at pictures already of a Christian heavy metal band, and we were coming out from Virginia to LA to do a showcase. And we got introduced at our first concert, which we were there to do a showcase for this record label. And we ended up playing a show down in Escondido in front of about 5,000 people, opening up for 2 major Christian metal acts. And a mutual friend of mine who had now moved to LA from the East Coast, was going to the same church that Monica was. He was also a hairdresser, which she was at the time. And so he was helping her, or she was helping him study for his boards, to pass his state board so he could be a hairdresser in Southern California. Whoops, lost the phone
Monica.
there. She's back. She's
Sorry.
back. So anyway, he said, you got to meet my friends from Virginia. They're in this band. They're really cool. So she's like, okay, sure. Why not? She gets introduced to us, thought we were a bunch of yahoos from Southwest Virginia because we sounded like it. So I don't think was overly impressed at the beginning. And so she, we kept running into each other over the next couple of days. We went and played her church the next day at 2:00 in the afternoon. Because if you're a heavy metal band and you go to sleep at 4 a.m, your church isn't at 10 or 11, it's at 2. So, and it was a Christian metal church. We did a couple songs. Afterwards, went to after church fellowship, hung out while they toilet papered our van, our rental van. Then that night they had a Bible study. Hung out with her at the Bible study. And it was really friendly and, nonchalant during this whole time. And then the next day, her and a couple of her friends met us at LAX. We had a layover from Orange County, John Wayne to LAX. We had to wait 2 hours before we flew out back to Virginia. So they came. It's back at the time where you could still meet at the gate. They came, brought us Kentucky Fried Chicken, threw a blanket out in the middle of our gate. We were eating chicken and hanging out. And we were kind of off to the side. So her friends were hitting on some of my band members. Monica really wasn't hitting on me, but she was very hungry. She had only been a Christian for a month. And so she really wanted to know about, the Bible and Christianity and go deeper. And so she was asking me a bunch of questions, made me feel really smart. And at the time I had only been a Christian for 5 years, but, so I'm trying my best to, answer questions that she has. And while we're sitting there alone, I hear an audible voice whisper in my ear, "This is your wife. Ask her to marry you." So convinced that it was one of my band members playing a trick on me, I looked over my left shoulder, nobody there. I looked over my right shoulder, nobody there, and realized I've just heard God speak to me. So I did what any obedient Christian would do, and I chickened out. And I started arguing with God and telling him, I'm not going to let you embarrass me in the middle of the airport here. So I got her phone number. Remember, no text messages, no cell phones, no emails back then, 1991. So I just said, hey, I'm going to call you when I get home. There's something I need to tell you. And so I'm going to let Monica take it over from here.
Yeah. So I was very new to God. I was raised Catholic, and my mom moved us out here from Long Island, New York, and she met God like within a month, I think, at a church. And she was going out with some friends to the airport and telling people about God with these little pieces of paper, little books. And I was stealing her car, teaching myself how to drive. I was 14. I ran as far from that as I could have, and my mom would chase me, and then I'd run farther. And I finally got to the end of myself at 26 and said, okay, fine, God, if you're real, show up. And he showed up in my room. I mean, the whole room just got really bright, like it was daytime, and it wasn't. And I fell asleep crying about just the last of a string of horrible relationships. And the next day I woke up and I said, well, okay, you're real. So what do we do now? And he said, find a church. And I talked to a friend of mine who was going to the heavy metal church. And so I said, okay, that sounds good. And I started going, and I met Doug a month later. I was heading to this concert to see some friends and bands, and my other 2 girlfriends were there. And I was driving by myself because this girl I was trying to drag with me would not be hauled off to some Christian concert. So I left. I went by myself. I got lost, missed the exit twice. I said, forget it. I'm going home. And I heard this voice say, try one more time. And I turned back around. I found it. And then, like Doug said, our mutual friend introduced us, and then he took off. And so we were left standing there awkwardly, me and a bunch of yahoos talking. They were telling jokes about Monty Python. not my genre. So I just thought they were goofy idiots. And so, yeah, he followed me to my Bible study and was at my church, and we were chit-chatting. And the thing that impressed me was at my Bible study, while the pastor said, look for such and so scripture, I was, thumbing around, so I didn't know what I was doing. And he would take the Bible and find the verse and hand it back. And I thought, now that's attractive. And so, we were at the airport, said goodbye. He asked for my number, called me the next day, I think, and said, hey, I heard this audible voice. What do you think? And I just said, sure. And shortly thereafter, we hung up. And I thought, I think I'm engaged. This is crazy. Because the guy before him took me to meet his parents in Pennsylvania. And his mom was a Christian, was praying for Rob. And, we just, think this is great. We love her. And so she called my mother like weeks before I met Doug and said, we're so happy that Robert and Monica met. And she said, we've been praying for this. And this is the girl for Rob. And my mom said, no, she isn't. My daughter is not the girl for Rob. I'm sorry, I don't agree. And she hung up on the lady. And I just thought, oh no. But we broke up after that. I found the church and met Doug, and I suppose we were engaged. And it rolled on from there. It just got crazier.
I had told Annetta that Doug had mentioned that, and I didn't know that. Yeah. That's amazing. So what were you thinking after, like, when you're at LAX? Like, what are you thinking about, like, after the first, like, it was 3 days, so first 2 days, what were you thinking of him after those first 2 days? Like, were you totally shocked that he asked, and like?
Oh yeah, I mean, I knew he was, trying to be cute. It just wasn't.
I like trying to be cute.
Trying to be cute with all the wrong jokes and anecdotes and songs, and it's like, okay, whatever.
It's Doug.
Yep. So, there was just no attraction. I just thought it was a bunch of goofy guys, and something in me just longed for more of God. And when Doug knew the God I was searching for, and that was like, oh, I like that. Like, I like, somebody who knows that I've been praying. I said, God, this is it. I'm done. The next guy that comes along is going to be the one that you picked for me. And he was. I wouldn't have picked him out of a crowd, but God said, that's the guy. And then I told my mother, I said, I think I'm engaged. And she said, yeah, he's the one. And I described, he's in a band, long hair, the whole nine, looks like all the rest. She said, no, he's the one. And I said, how do you know? Because she shot every single one of them down and usually gave him a little nickname like the Phantom. You only come for her at night, where do you come from? Get out of here. Yeah. Chase him out with the broom. So when she said that, and then the next time he called, she picked up the phone and said, son, and they've been best friends ever since. That was a sign.
Yeah. That's amazing.
Wow.
Yeah. She said, I've been praying for him for 10 years. Didn't you think I would know when he came? That's the one. So, yeah, mama.
Very cool.
I'm glad I followed up on that story, because that's amazing.
It definitely took divine intervention for me to get this marriage, because she is way above my pay grade, and it's mercy and grace and love, and God just giving me everything I didn't deserve in this relationship right here.
Did you, after she said yes, were you freaked out that she said yes?
Yeah, I was not expecting that. My whole thing was, and why I chickened out in the airport and waited to call her when I got home, was if she starts laughing uncontrollably, I just hang up and save face. When we never have to see each other again, right?
Yeah, it's a lot of pressure now. But now she has to get to know you. Yeah, now it's just like, oh, she may change her mind. How long was it before you actually got married?
Well, we met in October of 91. Is that right? Yeah. And married in February of 93. So we did some courtship through letters and very expensive long distance phone calls. And then she flew out to LA. She flew out from LA to Virginia. I flew out from Virginia to LA, met each other's parents. I moved her to Virginia in August of 92, and we did premarital counseling, and then got married in February of 93.
It's crazy.
So a little bit over a year. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Thank you for sharing. That's awesome. I'm glad I followed up with that because I didn't know any of that. So that's cool. Honey, you want to add anything to that?
I have not heard that story either, so I think that's so cool. And so the question that came to mind was, so what do you do when one of someone comes to you and for advice, because you guys are a couple that I know people look up to, and they're like, we want to get married, and you're like, does that judgment kind of come in, or are you just like, well, it worked for us?
It varies case by case. There was a few couples that we've told our story to and said, God can do something in an instant, especially when you've been waiting and praying, or it's just timing that, like Doug and I entered into campus ministry. So the Bible study that he went to with me, it was a year-long Bible study because I stayed here and he went home and I continued. I thought it was to answer the 800 lines for suicide hotline at church. So I signed up. And not once did I enter into the door to answer the phones. It was to fast track me so that Doug and I could do campus ministry later. So God was scooting me along all the times I said, no, 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 no. And then finally I said, okay, God, if you're real, show up. He had to fast track me. So, it's just a matter of timing.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
And we tell people, we say, look, our courtship, if you will, is probably the exception and it's not the rule. We were to probably never seen each other again. So God had to kind of do something in a hurry. And so, I take my advice to people is, like Monica said, if you're praying and you're listening, hopefully you're going to hear the right stuff. And if you go to counsel and ask people around you, hey, like her mom was a big determining factor that, the Bible talks about basically, I'm paraphrasing, it's not really a scripture per se, but that we are under our parents' spiritual authority. So when we're single, they still have kind of a say. We kind of want to think when we reach 18, we can do whatever we want, but really biblically, you're supposed to still submit to your parents until you get married and form your own family. So for her to get her mom's not just approval, but, kind of a rubber stamp to, yes, this is God, it was a big deal. In confirming that I was the one, even though, it wasn't your typical courtship situation or dating situation. So I tell people, look, you got to pray. You've got to trust people who you've given access and accountability to in your life. That they're gonna hear and see things that are good for you and not good for you, and they'll be able to help you determine, whether somebody's the right person or not.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy. Thank you again for sharing that. I want to say hi to our friend Annetta, Sarah.
Sarah's on. Hello, Sarah.
Oh, our little overlay didn't come through. So, there it is, way down there.
It is. Yes, it is.
There. Let me expand that and see if I can get anybody else. That's right. There you go. So, hi, Sarah.
Yeah.
So
that's interesting.
Yeah, go ahead, honey.
Well, I just hearing you speak to that. I haven't really gotten much marriage advice from my family. I don't think they're necessarily the ones that I would take it from. But the two things that came to mind were it's my grandmother who lived with us for several years after she came to America from Poland, and her advice was. One, don't wear red nail polish because it's, only those girls wear red nail polish. And so I'm like, Grandma, I don't even wear nail polish. I don't care. I don't do my hair. I don't do my nails. So that didn't even affect me. But the second thing was marry a man 10 years older than you. But again, the reasoning was a little warped. She's like, because women age faster than men and he won't want you. If you're older and you age faster. And I was like, okay, Grandma, sure, you're nuts. Not going to take that advice. Lo and behold, Jay, how much older are you?
Thank you, honey.
10 years. So that advice, it got ingrained into my subconscious somehow.
Yeah, we've already established that I'm older than
Doug.
Wiser.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I'm not a Cowboys fan, so sorry, went there again. So yeah, Monica kind of jumped in there a little bit on the story, honey. So actually, what you want to tell or at least start a little bit of the story how we met? Because we had both been married previously, and I'll just kind of start on my side of it. I was, again, 10 years older, so I was in my 40s, and I was always a family guy, and I always thought I'd have lots of kids and so forth. And I was married for 10 years previously, and at that point, I resigned myself to being alone. I had, during that time, I had some of those long battles I had talked about that first episode with God, and it wasn't really about that. But I was I was over the course of 3 years or whatever it was, 4 years before Annette and I met. I was resigned to, be alone. I mean, not alone, but I wasn't going to get married. I was going to, use my time elsewhere. I remember I went through the Perspectives class to go on mission trips and stuff through Park Church in Chicago. And I didn't know what I was going to do, but I was going to be alone. I was really sad that I wasn't going to have kids. But I was teaching. So I'm like, all right, well, I get to be around kids with work and so forth. So, and then you came.
Yes. I had also just gotten out of a divorce, and it was strange because I had lived with my mom until I moved in with my husband. So I had never been out on my own, never had those experiences. Doug too, right? So never those that like responsibility. It was like I worked, I had my jobs, I paid my bills, but in terms of that freedom, it was just different. It was different always living with someone. And then after the divorce, I lived on my own, and my friends were like, you have to start dating. And I was like, I don't know. But I ended up going so I took the year after the divorce to really work on myself, my relationship with God, my relationships with friends, with family, and kind of doing my own thing. And that was actually one of the best years of my life after such a painful experience. And I just remember going to one of the things that I decided to do was I went to the dentist, and the dentist, as she's working on me, she wanted to get a impression of my teeth. And so she put this blue goop in my mouth and had this jaws of life type thing kind of holding my mouth open. And I had joked with her and said, my friends have been telling me that it's time to start dating and that they were going to make an online profile for me. And I started laughing, and she's like, don't laugh. That's how I met my sweetie. I met my sweetie online. And she gave me the online site. I went, I signed up, and nothing for a year. I met a lot of nice guys, but didn't really feel a love connection with any of them. And it was the last week, and Match.com was having a crossover free weekend with the site I was on, and Jay just happened to pop up.
Wow.
On there. So, and we were literally 7 days away from just no, this isn't working. Not going to do it.
And it was a similar story. My friends, I was going to be alone. I was consigned to be alone. My friends were like, no, So my friends made me a profile on Match.com. I didn't even know. And it was out there for a while. It was probably, a month, a year, whatever, a couple months or a year. And then I looked at it finally after a year it's being up there. And I looked what they wrote. I'm like, are you kidding me? Of course, I rewrote it, and it was 19 pages long. I was just like, listen, I'm too old for this crap. This is what I like. This is this. And that's all I did. I didn't look. I didn't swipe left or right. I just undid my profile. And then, like Annetta said, they had a weekend or whatever it was, a crossover thing with chemistry.com, which I have to say was kind of a much better thing for me because meeting people and stuff, I wasn't into it. But with chemistry, you didn't get to see pictures right away.
Oh, no. They did it a whole, I actually really like the way they did it. I don't know if they're still around, but they had I just even remember the online survey, the onboarding survey was just so long. And I'm like, geez, how many questions are there? Because they wanted to like scientifically match you up with your perfect match. And so they asked all these questions, and you weren't allowed, it wasn't just a swipe left or right thing based on looks. It was like, then you finally got to see their answer to like three of their questions. And then after like a certain amount of time, you were able to send an email or a chat to them. And so it was a pretty long process. So we were talking for a while before we actually
before we
met.
saw pictures of each other.
Or saw pictures of each other.
Because it was email first, and then it was eventually pictures, and then
yeah, or maybe they showed one picture. I think you were allowed like one picture, one profile picture, but it was like
was it the one with me and Brutus, honey? Was it the one with me and Brutus that you like?
Was it? I don't know. I don't remember.
You liked that. You lied to me. You said it was
no, I do like that one, but I don't know if that was the one.
Stuff Brutus for Ohio State, and I had a hat on and my Indians.
Yeah. So anyway, so it's interesting. So when I hear people, that's something else that like my family would have never even thought of, like, what, online? That's crazy. You're just going to meet a murderer. And so it worked out.
Yeah, it did. Since you guys, maybe it's not as romantic as Doug but things went quick for us too, after that. Especially because we didn't really see each other a whole lot. We saw each other, went on a few dates, and and then you went to Vegas or something, and I went. I don't know. All of a sudden we didn't really hang out much until the night of the bike was stolen. I think was
no, but you know what? So, but the thing I do remember is after my divorce, I did actually rely on my family's advice for marrying a believer. Like that's what I needed to do, because my ex-husband was I don't know if he was started out as an atheist or agnostic. He just, there was zero church involvement. I think the family had went to church on Christmas or Easter, but I think that was mainly for show, versus actual wanting to form a relationship with God. And so it was just it was a totally different experience. I grew up Catholic, and to go from full-on everyday involvement with God to like, nope, the partner doesn't. It was just different. And so I really wish that we had gone through the premarital counseling just to, ask those questions that were tough and that, they did pose problems throughout the relationship. So that way, when I met you, Jay, we started talking, and I don't know if we immediately started talking about God, but we did talk about spirituality.
We talked about spirituality. I remember talking about that. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And so we kind of, and just the idea of, maybe we didn't know exactly what our beliefs were. Right. And yet we were willing to explore that together. And I think that was a huge part of it. And the reason that I was attracted to you is that openness and willingness to kind of ask those questions and, dive deeper.
Yeah, I do definitely remember talking about it and bringing it up, and said similar to what I said that first episode. Is like I always felt like God was walking beside me, and it's my faith was always very personal. A lot of people didn't even know it about me. I hear the kitties in the background.
The mongrels, they want out.
They have a couple of kitties at home. So, so thank you for you guys sharing that. So I guess since Monica had kind of led a little bit more into her faith journey, and you had indicated growing up Catholic and so forth, honey, and then the cover initial thing. But maybe you could talk about to whatever extent you want to your walk with God, starting from whenever you want to start it with, whether it's now or later or through what we've been through the last year or from childhood, wherever you want to go with it, as much as you want to share.
Sure. Yeah. So, I guess, so growing up Catholic, I don't know, Jay, I think I told you, but my mom initially wanted to be a nun.
Yep.
She grew up in a small Catholic area in Poland. So she was born and raised in Poland, a small little village. And it was, just grew up wanting to be a nun. And I think I don't know the full story, but I think the family pressured her. My father kind of pursued her. And so she chose to get married and have kids, and she came to America. But still very much, um, kind of had that Polish Catholic, everything. She just brought it all here to America. So she found the Polish church. We lived in a small in a Catholic community, so it was like church every Sunday, and then church just throughout the week. She would go to different, events, meetings, and so I did grow up Catholic, but I also had a very strange relationship with God because at 7 my parents got divorced and my mom was working all the time. So she essentially, I was raised by a single mom and it was Gen X. So where we were left home to kind of fend for ourselves, we were latchkey kids. And I just remember we would go over to people's houses or they would come over and we would watch movies. And one of my earliest experiences with God was just horrific because we watched The Exorcist. And I was a young kid and I was terrified after. And I don't know if it was just that John, like in the 80s, they used a lot of religious symbols and like The Omen and like all those movies, all that stuff. And I had no one to really kind of guide me away from that. And again, I don't blame my mom. She was doing the best she could and she was at work. And so we were kind of let loose in everyone's house, no matter which friend's house we went to. There was not a lot of supervision for the most part. And so we would watch those things. And I just remember being terrified of Jesus, especially just, dying on the cross and all the pictures that they would show with like the crucifix, and every vampire movie had a crucifix. And so I just was like, I wanted no part of it. But I didn't end my relationship with God. I pretty much just turned to the angels and saints and Mary. So those are my go-tos. So I'm grateful for the Catholic Church for having like those options for me where Jesus was not my only, go-to. And kind of that's where it was. So from then until now, it's just been kind of working through all that, redefining my relationship with Jesus, and eliminating that shame and that fear and that guilt. And I know with Catholicism, you hear a lot about that, with that shame and that guilt component. So that's kind of where I'm at. And there were always ebbs and flows of, there were days that I would go to church. Even through my divorce, I would go to church 3 or 4 times a week, just whenever there was a mass, just to feel that community and that presence. Not necessarily that, I felt I needed to go outside. I know that, God is with us always, and those things. At the same time, I needed that community and to know that I wasn't alone. And then one day, my mom and I aren't super close in some regards, but I remember her telling me the story that one day she just was at home alone on Christmas, because it was one of the first times that we had gone to see my dad and his new family during that time. And I came home because we had forgotten something, and I just found her at home crying, and I never had seen that emotion from her. And so I just, again, as a kid, I felt guilt. Like, I don't know, do I leave? Do I stay? I don't know what to do. But I ended up going. And she later, as an adult, when I was an adult, told me that was one of the best nights of her life, because she ended up getting up off the couch and she was walking. And she just said, my gosh, she just had this moment of like, what am I doing? I'm not alone. God is with me. I have Jesus right here. And she just said she had this skip in her step. It started snowing. It was just this beautiful, idyllic scene. She went to midnight mass and she just felt so whole and complete. And so hearing her tell that story to me recently just kind of switched that event in my own mind and made me realize how often that has happened in my life, where even though I felt like a disconnect between friends or family, that God has always been there with me, even when I had turned away from him to a degree. So that's kind of where I'm at in my story.
Yeah, that's
powerful. Thank you for sharing.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I hadn't heard that from your mom. That's a powerful thing. And and we're not going to go into this tonight, but Annette and I have had an interesting ride through our an interesting ride, period. But the our spiritual paths, we found a couple churches that we really liked out in California, or one out in California we really liked, and so it's been kind of a I don't even know how to say it. It's been a interesting walk.
Yeah.
So, one thing I wanted to ask you, honey, too, is either like after your divorce, I know you touched on a little bit, but did you, with that, or with, getting the call from the hospital with me, did you turn to God, out of instinct at all, just because, that's what you felt like you should do, or is it something that you really, thought about, or I don't know. I don't know really what I'm trying to ask you, but, did you lean on God in those times, or is there other times that you really felt like you were leaning on Him, not just doing what you're supposed to do as a Catholic or whatever?
Well, I think with the divorce, it was interesting because, again, it was a very difficult period, and so I wanted to just occupy myself with whatever I could. So I joined the theater organization in Chicago called the Saints, which is, again, kind of funny that it's called the Saints. And it's a volunteer organization, mostly elderly folks, retired, who you're able to volunteer to take tickets or clean up, pass out playbills at different theaters around Chicago. And in exchange, you get to see the shows. And so, again, awesome. I didn't want to be home in my apartment by myself. And so I ended up signing up for that and going to 3 or 4 or 5 shows a week sometimes, just to kind of get out, stay connected with people. And it was phenomenal. I absolutely loved that. I got to, one of my favorite experiences was the after show, where I would give some of my coworkers, my co-volunteers, rides home. And just to hear them talk about their lives. I mean, they were, 70, 80, 90, some of them were. And that was a great experience for me. But I also wanted to listen to music. I found music very healing. I know, Jay, with your podcast, the new one with music, you touched upon that, how it's just so healing. The issue was all the stations that I used to listen to left me in tears because every song was about love and heartbreak and everything. So I turn on a song and I'd be like, oh my gosh, and start crying again. And so my friend suggested I listen to K-Love. So it was still about love, but it wasn't romantic love. It was the love that God had for us. And I just would listen to it 24/7. And I loved it because it was very uplifting. And I did feel that healing. And it just kind of one thing led to another. And I discovered artists that I'd never even heard of before. I used to,
like who?
Hang out. Like what?
Like who are some of those artists?
So I remember Jeremy Camp, for example. The last time I was leaving from my home to the marital home to the my new apartment, as I was driving, and the drive was it was like less than 10 minutes. I think it was actually probably like the song length, maybe 2 song lengths. And I was driving and Let It Fade came on. And I just looked into my rear view mirror and just saw that cross from moving from Park Ridge to Edison Park in Chicago and just letting it fade. Like, that's it. This is the new story. And so that was one moment for sure. Another huge moment was, I think Doug and Monica were involved in this when my mom was sick. Jay and I had moved out to California right after Thanksgiving, in 2011? Yes, because Juju was born in 2011. So we'd gotten out there that year for Christmas. And my mom had come out to California to visit us in April. And then in May, she had been diagnosed with stage 4 terminal cancer. And so we had flown her out to Arizona because that's where her sister is. And Jay and I were close enough that we could drive from California to Phoenix and, be with them. And I just remember hearing Anita Morjani's story. She had a near-death experience, and she had talked about, healing and her experience with God. And I just kind of latched onto that, and I just knew in my heart that my mom was going to heal one way or another, whether it was in this body on this earth, or whether healing meant her physical death and her, moving on and living on that way. She was going to heal. And so that was a huge kind of daily, it wasn't even daily, it was like literally second by second, minute by minute relationship with God. And then again, with your story, the same thing. It's like I was so scared, and at the same time I knew one way or another everything was going to be okay. It might suck in the moment, like it would have totally sucked if you were no longer physically here with us. And in my heart I knew the other side of the coin, the other aspect of healing and life. And you kind of confirmed that with your story.
Yeah, I think Doug and Monica watched our kitty when we were in Arizona a little bit. Did you not? I think you had to.
We did. Yeah.
I'd forgotten about
And
that.
we got a frantic text to pray for you when you went in the hospital.
Yep. Oh.
And I
That's
think
true.
she was on her way back or something. She hadn't even gotten there yet. And it was like, so when you talk about leaning on God in those times,
Did I know that?
Annetta knew to ask for prayer.
I didn't know that.
I don't think so. And it's just so crazy. That's like Doug and Monica they were one of the first people to come to mind. And I just, that's amazing.
Cry. He's gonna make one episode without crying. No, I didn't know that, which again I think is interesting because they're the first people I called, and we didn't talk about that. I didn't know you had reached out to them, and like we said in that first episode, we haven't been around each other, or talk very rarely. We'll send prayer requests to each other and stuff like that, but I mean we haven't had a whole lot of contact. It's just one of those relationships from the moment we met that I just knew they'd always be a part of me. And yeah, I didn't know you did that. So thank you.
Absolutely. Our privilege and pleasure.
All right. So, Monica, is there anything that you want to add to your journey? I know you shared, a lot of your coming to Christ in your walk. Is there anything you want to add from that point on, or you just want to leave it at that?
Yeah, it's just an amazing adventure that started with, me running away from God. And then when everything came crashing down, that's who you turn to. And I think it's in Ecclesiastes, it talks about eternity is set in the hearts of man. So there's just kind of a knowing that he's there, but when you need to reach out for him, those foxhole moments. And so anybody who's listening, if you run into that moment, or maybe you've ran one direction and you realize that's not where life is, just ask, call out, and he'll show up.
Yeah. Oh.
And I think too, it's interesting that eventually those moments turn from, instead of like the emergency situations, to now I am finding myself just saying thank you. Like those are my prayers now for now, instead of the oh my God, where, I'm sorry I haven't been here forever. Now I need you. Where are you? Yeah. Okay, thanks. Bye.
Praying
No,
for
this
Brown
is now
Super
it's like an
Bowls.
everyday kind of gratitude. Like, wow, eyes are opened to the blessings along the way that aren't that dramatic. My mom was diagnosed with terminal stage 4 cancer, and here she is 10 years later, healthy, happy. And I'm thankful for that every day. And there are those little moments that I'm just like, oh my gosh, this next breath, this, cup of coffee, it's these little moments where now I feel like I'm running toward God, as that thank you instead of I need you emergency.
Yeah, I think that's been. I guess I didn't know I did that quite as much, but yeah, definitely since the heart attack and everything I've been through last year, I mean, I still have all those questions that we've talked about that I'm dealing with, but yeah, it's for me, it's the joy of him being with me and all the gratitude and all that stuff. It's a different thing. It's a daily, it's a moment by moment. It's different. I feel him differently now than I did before. Even though I always knew he was with me, I always knew without a question he was walking beside me. Now I can feel it every step I take, and I'm grateful, and it's it's a happier, more joyful walk since then. But hello, Kitty.
So Doug and Monica. So I have a question. So when you guys meet someone too who, you see the miracles in people's lives, big or small, and they attribute it to coincidence. Like, oh,
Yeah. That I don't think we realize how much God's been there until we know him. And then we look back, like our family was robbed when I was little, and there was cash on the table. My mom was going to buy a car, single mom. All she had was on the table. They came in, broke into the house, took our little crappy jewelry, Mickey Mouse watches, whatever. And they left the cash. And we didn't realize that was him. You'll look back and see all those moments where he carried you that you had no idea. And so, when you don't know him, you have no idea how this wonderful coincidence, went down. But I love in your story how you all were on 2 different matching websites and they happened to commingle on the last week. I mean, come on. Yeah.
Yep. I think about, I talked to Doug about something that happened this week, and we'll get there eventually during the show, that I had some revelations this week or last week that kind of brought me to my knees, and I'm still kind of reeling from it. It was great, happy stuff for me. But it was moments that, looking back, of knowing that there was these incredibly powerful, moving moments in my life with music that I've never been able to reach on my own, whether it be a musical or whatever it was, through sports, through relationship. It's the highest I've ever been as a human. It's the highest I've ever been. And it's such I know that feeling. It's just, there's this awe, and I'm moved to tears because there's the only thing I can do. It's not necessarily sad or happy or whatever. It's just this unbelievable awe and just being so moved. And now I know that was God. It's like, it was just, it was, we'll talk about this some other time, but looking back on those moments that you didn't know if he was with you. And again, I didn't necessarily think he was ever not with me, but now I can look back and say that was a moment where he was standing right here. And because it's the only way to explain what happened. Mm-hmm. Getting some kind of big audio thing. I don't know if it's fan.
Don't
know.
Monica's wrangling cats. I don't know if they're doing something.
Wrangler. All right. So, hey, Doug, you wanna talk, or you wanna just sit back, or? Yeah.
Well, I'll throw my 2 cents on Anetta's question. About the coincidence thing, and it really is the case, like Monica said, that not just hindsight is 2020, especially spiritual hindsight is 2020. I don't think a lot of times we see in the middle of what we're going through, but when we get to the end and we look back, it's like the footprints in the sand, right? We can see God at work and see God's hand in things, and or protection or whatever it is, where we know, wow, we may not have been aware of it, but he certainly was there. So we've got Jay, who's actually died and went to heaven and come back. I met Monica, maybe a smaller miracle, but still a miracle, was healed of cancer. So those type of events, I think if people, have intellectual and spiritual honesty, they'll say, look, there's got to be more. I can't just keep chalking stuff up to coincidence or fate or the universe, pulled something out of its hat. Ultimately it's God. And, and my prayer is that, God will open people's eyes to those type of things. There's only so much you can ignore. I will say this, the danger in constantly, giving a stiff arm spiritually speaking, and keeping God in this, place of, I don't really believe in that kind of stuff, is that the Bible says when we do that, Romans chapter 1, that it actually hardens our hearts. And the more our hearts become hardened, the harder it is for God to make himself known to us, or for us to see him as he's trying to reveal himself to us. And so I encourage people, you got to respond. Whenever God reveals himself, there needs to be a response, whether it's in a sunset or a moment where he has, done something. Even the small miracles, doesn't have to be a big one, or the small things that God does. Like it says, he gives rain to the righteous and the unrighteous. And, so God's at work trying to make himself known to people across the world. And some of us have, caught the revelation and we've surrendered to it. Others are still, for whatever reason, whether it's church hurts or, an abusive relationship, or, just something that didn't work out, or somebody dies, young, or whatever it is, we want to say either we blame God or God doesn't exist, because how could he let that happen? And there are answers to those questions, and some of those answers we won't get, unfortunately, until we get to the other side. But ultimately, we want to say, yes, God, you're real, and help me to understand, what I'm going through or what I've been through. Help me to heal from what I've, been through. And that's his heart. He does want to help us through that process, but he's there. And so again, my prayer is that people that are chalking it up to coincidence or whatever their belief system is, that they'll finally, understand that there is a God who has revealed himself through his son, and he's wanting to make himself known to every person on this planet.
Yeah, that's a great. And I'd actually like to dive more into that topic at some point. I'm fascinated by that, because there's just things in my life that are there's just no other way to explain them. I mean, again, like there's so many coincidences you can chalk up to that stuff. There's just, again, I think you had mentioned, like you had said, the intellectual and spiritual intelligence, and that's what I kind of feel too. Is like, you have to be questioning. You have to, as an intelligent person, you got to question things, not just close your mind to, possibilities. Mm-hmm. And, I guess I get frustrated, that people sometimes can't see that, or just, don't look that way. But anyway, I am going to move us along, because we have something else I want to do on this beautiful little screen I made. So I have a whole bunch of questions. We're not going to get through them all now, because we were talking. And first of all, how great is this, honey, that we're sitting here talking with them?
I know, right?
And it's one of those things where it's like, I don't really care if anybody's listening or whatever. It's just like, we get to hang out with you guys, and
it's like our fireside chats from before. I just loved it.
Exactly.
Loved it. Those are like some of the fondest memories. So can't wait.
That was so awesome.
We need food, and we need watermelon juice.
Yes. We made some watermelon juice yesterday.
Did you?
In honor of
what
you
it
guys.
was about that. Like, I don't know if you feel the same way about that, honey. It's like, I just remember that.
I do remember that. Can we even find watermelon here? I'm like, probably not right now.
It's not like I never had watermelon juice before, but it was like
Monica's magic touch. I feel like Monica, if she anything like household related, she just has this magic touch that makes it 1,000 times better.
Yes.
Aw, we call this the Yummy House, or House of Bacon, whichever.
Bacon's a good thing. Whoever doesn't like bacon, there's something wrong with them. All right, so we're going to skip some of these. I don't know exactly what these are. We'll skip some. I do want to get to some of them specifically. Some of them we actually touched on. So these are questions. So we kind of talked about this a little bit. I didn't get my wife's but what did you think of your spouse the first time you met them? This is for the
Goofy.
women and for Doug. And for me, I guess. Who wants to go first?
Goofy.
What made him goofy?
His accent.
I was just going to say, did he talk like a West Virginia accent with a...
Yeah, I called him a Yahoo. And then his jokes were just not hitting it.
All right. But you're
I'm
married
gonna
about-
admit guilty on both counts. I still have way more of a Southern Virginia accent at that time, and also my jokes. I had no clue like that. That was just missing the mark so badly. But I
Did
should have.
everybody always laugh at
should've-
your jokes or something?
Well, I mean, we joked among the band, and that's 5 guys who had a a common interest in something. But
Yeah.
I just I missed it badly. Obviously, when I saw Monica, I thought, "Wow, Lord, this would be amazing." Again,
Yeah.
she was way above my pay grade. So, that was my first impression.
Okay. Honey, real quick.
You were in your phone a lot.
See, I knew you were going to go there. I knew you were going to go there. That's such crap.
I was like,
So first of all, before you even start, this woman, I understand all these young people, like these young people that work for us. See, I moved my camera. Did you see that? I actually moved the thing over. I got to move this back now. She's obsessed with her phone. She's like she's like a 16-year-old. She's on her phone all the
I am
time.
addicted. Yes, I know. I'm
And,
addicted.
like-
No, because
But we went to a restaurant right down the street from us where she met. She came. So my first impression was you had that red leather coat on. Again, I'd only seen pictures. I was closing the store, and my buddy was hiding in back because I told him that I was going on a date, and he made a big deal about it because he was one of the people that was involved in putting that profile together. And I'm just like trying to throw stuff at him, trying to keep him in back. And but I remember seeing her in the red leather coat, and I was like, all right, let's do this. But
well, and I hugged you. I'm not a hugger at all. Like I am not
know.
a hugger. And so at
You
the end
did.
of our date, I remember you walked me to my car, and I was like, okay, thanks. I'm going to hug you now. And I hugged you. And then,
well, see, that was such a confusing thing for me because I just thought you weren't like I was on my phone. I was on my phone a little bit, which was weird. This is back a ways too. But I had an event the next day that I was planning. It wasn't a good date for me to go on this date. I had a big event the next day that I was in charge of. So I was like, just whatever. And then I just didn't think she was into the date at all. And then she hugged me goodbye. I'm like, man, I was always bad at that. It's like I read this the wrong way, maybe. Like, oh, all right.
so it worked out.
All right. We'll do some of these quickly. Some of them we'll bypass. Let's see this one. Now let's not do that one. We just got to talk about that. Let's not do that one either. Let's do this one. This is a good one. This is easy. Not easy, but what was the first album you ever owned?
Ooh.
I remember the first DVD I owned, which is kind of embarrassing to list, but my first DVD I ever owned was Whitney Houston. When I danced with somebody. Anyway.
Nice.
Are you saying musical DVD, right?
Yeah. I'm sorry. What do
CD.
they call it? CD. Sorry. Yeah. See?
My first personal album, like outside of my family, was Yes. It was in high school.
All right.
Year I graduated.
It's a good album.
Mine was "Come Sail Away" by Styx.
Yeah. That's a good. My brothers had that, and they played it all the time. Yeah. What about you, honey?
I remember my
Justin Bieber?
my first cassette was actually the Kokomo single from Cocktail. And then I bought it at Walgreens on a whim because someone said I don't listen to music. I was like, you know what, I don't. And so that was at the cashier stand at Walgreens, and I was like, it's like $2, I'll buy it. And then my first CD was a Christmas gift, and it was Club Dance Hits '97. And I still have it, and I love
Those are
it.
always good. Those are always good. My first
Yeah.
album was not
Pretty
an
much,
album.
Doug.
Mine was an 8-track. It was surprise. Mine was the 8-track of Grease.
Yes.
The 8-track
Good
of
choice.
Grease. All right.
Now, I will say this. My sister owned that, and between her having friends over and just me and her, because we were closer in age and I had 2 older brothers, we probably played that Grease album 100 times and did sing-alongs and dance-alongs every single time.
Can you listen to it now, or do you like it, or do you just OD'd on it?
Oh, yeah. I still love the songs. I mean, that's kind of at that age, it made a really big impression, so you're On to the hand job, baby.
It's awesome. It's awesome. One of the camp
Well-
weekends they play Grease. It's a 50s, 60s sock hop week. Anyway, all right, yeah, let's go.
So you guys are actually luckier because on the way to school every morning, my friend Eileen would drive us. The only stipulation was every single morning we would listen to the Grease 2 soundtrack.
Oh,
Every morning.
The
Every
worst
morning.
sequel ever known to man. Let's bowl
Yes.
tonight. Adrian Zemed. Oh, that was awful. That was
Yes.
completely awful.
But
Yes.
Adrian Zemed is
Well-
also a big advocate of education, so we'll give him
Yes,
props for
yes,
that.
yes.
He'll be forgiven.
All right, would you
Yeah.
rather be loved, respected, or admired?
love.
Yeah,
That's easy.
Love.
yeah, me too. Me too. That was a no-brainer for me. All right, here you go. I already know the answer to some of this. Was there an embarrassing fashion moment in your adolescence? A faux pas or something, like an embarrassing thing, or Doug
Okay.
Ashenwash jeans or something?
Well, I'll say this. I grew up in the 70s, so that was just a plethora
Yeah.
of embarrassing fashion moments. But I'm going to go with something different. Hairstyle. So when everybody was wearing the hair long, late 70s, still, I think, I was at a restaurant and I had hair that kind of curled at the bottom. It wasn't like super curly like it was later on in my life. And I was taking my tray through the line and the manager came up to me and he says, "I'll carry your tray for you, young lady." And I lost it.
Did you cut your hair the next day?
No, I didn't. I just made sure I wore more manly clothes from that point forward. So, but yeah, that was my it was embarrassing. So yeah.
All right, anything you guys want to share?
I can't believe Monica had any faux pas with fashion. She's like really on it.
Yeah, I
Well,
didn't. I didn't.
Big bad
I
LA
was,
bar hair. I mean, it was the thing back then. I look at it now, it was just like big.
yeah, but at the time it was, it was good. Yeah.
It was
Yeah, I
fashion
have-
forward at the time.
I have none of that either. I was always well dressed and like presentable. It's like I took.
I
pride
had
in
the
that. It was like,
an olfactory faux pas was in 8th grade, 7th and 8th grade. You know how now there's the joke that like teen boys always wear Axe cologne and it's like just suffocating.
yeah.
I in 7th and 8th grade had a real love for like Exclamation, Electric Youth, all those perfumes that we
Oh.
would just Malibu Musk. We'd have I went to Catholic school and we'd have church every morning or once a week in the morning, and I just remember that whole mix of all of us girls wearing the different perfumes. It was just horrible,
I have a headache
horrible.
just thinking about it, hearing about it.
Yeah.
Oh,
Like a cloud following your group.
Oh.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Little Love's Baby Soft cloud of.
Oh, I had that.
Teenagers
What?
and smelling. That's what.
Oh, yeah.
weird. Annetta can attest to this. Like I don't smell. Like
He doesn't. It's
I
weird.
catch double headers in 90 to 100-degree heat, and I've never really sweated. I never, it's weird, and it always annoys
good
me.
on you.
It annoys people.
I was just going to say that middle school for the guys, that was the years we discovered Polo
Yeah.
and Drakkar and a couple
yeah,
other.
Drakkar,
they
yes,
had a
yes.
Halstead.
And we were bathing ourselves in that stuff. So.
yeah.
Makes you more attractive. Woo.
Polo. That smell. Seriously, I have a headache right now from like remembering that. I'm not joking. It's like that smell is just ingrained in my. There was a couple.
All right, move on. Let's move on then, because I'm
All
also
right.
getting
All right.
queasy.
All right. We're changing pace a little bit. So, what activity makes you feel the most joyful when you're doing it?
Really? Are we going to talk about that? Okay, Jay.
Sure.
Hmm.
There's other questions I could have put in there.
Or you can pick one of your top three. Let's say that.
Top
So,
3. Let's go with
There
that.
you go.
I'm just asking for one.
Oh yeah, one of the
I
top
got
three.
one.
So that gives
Okay,
us-
one of the top 3. Okay, I got you.
Yeah.
Anybody?
He lost me.
Your mind's somewhere else now.
Uh, I love driving. Like in California, I loved, even in Michigan, I love our day trips. Like anytime we just get in the car, the sun is shining, and just a new adventure. I just love that. That's one of my favorite absolute things to do.
That's fun.
Yeah, mine would be, then, like, even when we were here going to Petoskey or wherever, but in California for sure when we explored, hiking was always great with the kids.
Paramount Ranch. Mm-hmm.
Paramount Ranch. But
Santa Barbara.
my favorite things, the thing that probably brings me the most joy is being in the hammock with my babies. Yeah, I had Juju and I started in the hammock, and we'd be in the hammock for 4 or 5 hours until we actually got physically out of the hammock. So being in the hammock with my kids, and we just read and take naps and stuff that's probably the thing that I can cite that brings me the most.
I know Monica's going to say be at the beach because that's a no-brainer. Yeah.
It's pretty good.
And I've got a couple things, but I'll say singing is probably one of the things for me that just is, whether I'm just in my car or, leading worship on a Sunday morning or that kind of thing. I love singing, and, that's, for me, it brings me a lot of joy.
Yeah, music would be my second choice for sure. I wish I could sing though. Anyway, anything, honey?
Well, like I said, the driving, and also, also the sitting around and talking like this or over a meal for hours. I love that. I feel like that was like a European tradition. Like, there's an old Polish saying that, it doesn't translate as well, but like that the happy don't measure time. And so you think of like the Spanish, like the siestas, where you just, you get the work done throughout the day. In the morning, all the work's done, but yet you have time for that 2 to 3 hour visit for coffee and tea with friends.
Yeah, like when we were sitting around by the fire in Calabasas.
Yeah.
Those moments, with these guys and, that whole group, and Puvy and Matthew being out there, and that was great. All right, so we're going to get a little marriage thing here. So what is an example from your life that embodies when you or we, so it's either a couple thing or an individual thing, embodies when you or we have been at our best in regards to our marriage? So kind of a couples thing. When do you feel you guys have been best as a couple, basically?
I think now.
Now?
Yeah.
Why now?
I mean, not this very minute, but
No, I know.
this season has been, we've just grown a lot. We've realized deficiencies and course corrected. And so I think we're in a season of having been able to rest and travel and just kind of, I think you need to reinvent your relationship about every 5 years and just check in with each other, and because people change and grow, and if you don't grow together, you'll grow apart.
Yeah, not much I can add to that. I'll just say that when we are a team, and we've talked about this with you guys too, I mean, there's just such a synchronicity that happens, and, it kind of takes you to a level that two individuals can't reach on their own. And so when we are Team Levy and we're doing stuff together as Team Levy and we get something accomplished, or we, there's a greater joy and euphoria that comes from that, as opposed to just two people kind of doing their own thing. So I'd say that's, when we're at our best is when we're conscious of really wanting to love, serve, and help one another.
Yeah, I'll tackle this real quickly, honey. Then I'd love to hear what you have to say. I think our best is yet to come. I don't think we've had it yet. I think the way our life has been and how it happened, and starting a date and moving quickly, then getting pregnant and all that stuff. Life has just happened to us, and we had the business took off, and moving to California and then moving to Traverse City. It just seems like one thing after another. Your mom's illness, my mysterious illness, and then this. It just seems like life has happened, and we haven't. There's been a few moments, at least in the bigger picture, we sit back and enjoy. I do think back to the time in California was probably, one of those moments when we had a little bit more freedom to explore, freedom, a little less pressure, a little less stress back then than we do now. But I think, again, working on our relationship and really being committed to that and our family and trying to figure out what's best and trying to manifest our dreams in our dream life and our best life ever. I think it's we're going through this season right now, and when we come on the other side of this, I think that's going to be our best time. But anyway, I'll let you.
No, I agree. I love what Monica said about the course correction. I feel like that's kind of where we're headed as well, because you're right. We've just been given these fantastic, huge things. Yeah. And even some of them seemed like they sucked in the moment, but again, in hindsight, it's just perfect. It's being perfectly laid out. We just don't know it completely yet. And so I feel it. I feel those times that we were in Panera planning our life and starting it. Yeah. And then, we were like, oh yeah, let's have A happen. And then God gives us A, B, C, D. And it's magnificent, but it's also it was a lot for us to handle. I was never supposed to have kids. I was told by doctors that we would never have kids, or I would never have kids. And so finding out about Juju was a huge surprise, because that wasn't in the plan. I had resigned myself to being, us not having kids. And the business, same thing. It was like this fantastic thing was gifted to us, by your creativity and just the way things worked. And it was so quick and so big, and we didn't know how to handle it. And so it's like, and so now it's like, again, this whole course correction thing of where we're headed. And I'm excited. I'm excited about it. And I did love those times in California, again, where we just, as a family, the four of us would just say, okay, today we're just going to take this time to go explore. And it was magnificent. Those are some of the best memories, going to the beach, going to Zuma, going to just explore. So.
Agreed. All right. All right. So we all have this is kind of a three-part thing. So we all have moments, specific experiences in our lives that cause us to feel a deep sense of purpose, meaning, and fulfillment. Those moments that make us feel most alive, and where we experience joy and peace. What is a specific example from your life when you felt the greatest sense of fulfillment, purpose, pride, joy, or felt the most alive in regards to your relationship with God or your faith? So when was a moment in your life, like a high point moment in your life, that you felt most connected to God, felt purpose, meaning, it all kind of coming together?
I would say my first 6 months, I had this honeymoon period where I lived out in the middle of nowhere. My drive to work was about a half an hour each way. So it was a lot of worship music, prayer, and just me and him. But it was before Doug and I we knew each other and we were engaged, but it was a while before I moved out. So I had to finish my apprenticeship and just go to work all day. But I was a hairdresser's apprentice. So I was shampooing people and mixing color. I pretty much was by myself with the Lord all day, all night, turn around, go back to work, do the same thing. So he gave me about 6 months where it was just he and I was, knocking out my hours. But it was very sweet and fulfilling, and it filled me up for the next few years of marriage, ministry, kids living in our house or being in our space all the time, and everything else that came later.
Awesome. Doug?
Yeah, for me, I'd have to, there's seasons where this has been where I felt that. And not that it's necessarily a roller coaster, but, just peaks and valleys and mountaintops and valleys. And but I would say early on in my walk to making that decision just to, get out of my self trajectory lifestyle that I was living as a 17-year-old, 16, 17-year-old, and surrendering to God's plans for my life. I really wasn't looking for God, but he kind of, found me. And so, when he revealed himself, me saying yes was a big deal. And like I said, just moving into everything that he kind of opened the doors for, I truly felt alive. I felt like, I was chasing experiences as a teenager to try to feel alive. But when finally God got a hold of me and I gave my life to him, I really felt alive. I felt like I was doing what I was purposed to do, and I felt fulfilled. And so I'd say that's the biggest one. And I've had several, like I said, seasons since then where I've kind of come into things where I'm like, oh, wow, this is really another thing that I'm meant to do. And, so those moments have given me pride, joy, and also made me feel fulfilled.
Honey?
I don't suppose that making our way over to Monica's for some of that cabbage soup that she's making could be part of that. Aside from that, I think part of it is still evolving for me. Again, same thing with us as a couple, personally as well. Just, in the past couple of years, I graduated as a Fearless Living life coach. And right now I'm doing a program on positive intelligence. And it's kind of the same thing going, which focuses a lot about quieting that inner judge that we have and leaning more into the sage and looking at life through the sage perspective. And I kind of see that as the human side of us versus the God side of us and how God sees us. And am I able to then see myself the way that God sees me? Am I able to see others the way that God sees them? And so that's been a huge, huge accomplishment because there was, we've made a lot of mistakes. I've made a lot of mistakes in life, professionally, personally. And, people have said some horrible things, to me and about me. And I just keep thinking there was a time where none of that fazed me because I was like, no matter anything you say cannot be worse than what I've already told myself about myself. And just thinking about that, it hurts my heart now because when one of the exercises I'm doing now is looking at a picture of myself as a 4-year-old and seeing that child and seeing the way that God created me and that essence of just innocence and love and potential and just having that empathy and compassion for that child and being so thankful that all the trauma that she went through has gotten me here. She survived that and now is turning it into a thrive. And so I love that because having more compassion for myself and asking for support, that's a huge, huge, huge achievement, accomplishment. I feel I'm so glad that I was able to get the tools and then now use them because the more compassion and empathy that I have for myself, the more I have for others. And that's just, it goes back to that one word, love. It sounds cliche, but I think it's true. So I'm excited about continuing that work on myself and with clients and then teaching them how to use those tools and support. And again, it's changing lives one person at a time. And that's how we're going to make this world better for us and for our kids.
That's speaking right to me. Thank you. I love it.
Yeah. I don't know if I have a good answer for this. There's certainly been moments in my life that, again, those moments I'd mentioned with music that I feel so like God's arms are wrapped around me. Again, I see that now. I didn't before. There was just these incredible high moments that were just amazing. So I definitely, see those moments in my life, and then all the different signs we have that I've always had in my life, but that, those moments where God puts people like Doug and Monica in our path, and Tim and Loretta, that is just so overwhelming to me. I don't know if that answers this part of the question, but again, I hate, you had kind of alluded to it too, honey. I hate to be a cop-out. I do. I just feel like God has been preparing us, and we've gone through a lot of stuff. And I think we've, we're working towards, kind of syncing our steps together, and reassessing our lives as a couple, as parents, as friends, as children of God. I think we're assessing all that, and it's very clear to me that God's working in our lives. I can feel it. I can see it. I can see the other side of this. And the other side of this is everything that you and I have dreamt about and talked about, and wanted the life that we've always dreamt for ourselves. The people that not just the life, but the person that we want to be. The person, how we want to show up for people, how we want to show up for our kids, how we want to help others. I know it's a cop-out thing, because I've certainly had moments that I feel alive, which is an interesting word for me. But because in a way I've never felt more alive right now, even still in the midst of this and still having so many questions, because I can feel it. I can feel what's next. My big concern and fear is screwing it up, and letting God do the work, and
Well, let me just jump on that real quick, because as you guys are talking about this, some people I'm just sensing, they're like, wow, you're just coming into it, right? And then maybe even have that sense about themselves, like, so I just felt like God wanted to encourage you guys, because there are some people that never get it. They go through their entire life and they're just either existing, or it's from one bad situation or one failure to another, and things just don't work out, and they never click into God's plan and purpose for them, or being fulfilled, so you guys have found that, and it's still in process. But like, if you look at the history in the Bible, it's full of stories like that. Moses was 80 when he delivered.
I'm not 80, Doug.
You're not, but that gives you much hope, right? You got a ways to go before you even hit 80, right? But he was 80 before he started delivering Israel out of Egypt. Paul, the same thing. He gets saved in the middle of his life, and then he goes away for 14 years before he comes back and starts his apostolic journey in the New Testament church. And so there are people who, had assignments on their life, and they didn't get them till much later, but even just practically speaking, they've done studies where they found that the most productive time in a person's life, the older they are, the actual more productivity that they have. I'm excited for you guys. I can't wait to see what the next 5, 10, 15 years has in store for you, and what God has called you to, and the things that you're going to do and accomplish. And we just get the privilege of hanging out with you. But I just as an encouragement, a lot of times I think we can, you talked about the inner judge, Annetta. We can kind of look back and go, oh, what have I really done? Or what have I really accomplished? Or, have I really, done anything worthwhile? And, life is full of small miracles and small things that add up. And it doesn't have to be the big stage and the big show and the big accomplishment, for that to be, because Hollywood's full of a bunch of people who have made a ton of money, gotten really famous, and they're miserable. And that if you followed any of the stories of anybody, and we think accomplishment has to look a certain way, and it's not really that in the kingdom of God and with God's purposes and plans for us. He has very specific things for us to accomplish, and that he desires to do. And really, for him, it's more about the journey. It's more about God being pleased with us for actually saying yes and taking the risk, as opposed to, the end result. So, because it says it's faith that pleases him. So when he says, will you do this for me? And we say yes, it's not about whether it gets done or whether it, looks amazing at the end of the thing. It's about, did we say yes? Did we take the risk? That's what's pleasing to God. So I felt like, I wanted to encourage you guys. You're not late. You're not 80.
But even at 80, you can.
That's right. Even if you were
It's never
80,
too late.
God could still do it. It's not too late. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think too that it's important. Thank you for saying that. Thank you. I think being present in the moment also, and not waiting for the, oh, I'll wait once this happens, when this circumstance changes, then I'll be happy. Then I'll know that God is with me. Then I'll do. It's like right now in this moment, as you said, John, as I'm on this journey, as I've said yes, I'm already seeing and feeling and experiencing the gratitude, the miracles, just the joy. So thank you.
Yeah, and
So good.
I think it's trying to capture those moments and remind yourself of it all day long. Because the thing that I'm most worried about, or I don't know if it's the right choice of words, it is we've been given an incredible opportunity, the opportunity of our lifetime, and I don't want to let it pass us by. And I'm not just talking our faith with God and our walk with God and our marriage. I'm talking all of it. Our marriage, our kids, being parents, being friends. Again, becoming that person who God sees us, who He intended us to be fully. And He's given us an opportunity to, despite all the mistakes we've made, despite all that, despite ourselves, He's given us this opportunity, that we can't let pass us by. And that's what motivates me probably more than anything. It's like, I can't not, because if I can't do this now, if I can't make this commitment, if I can't walk across that line, or whatever, however you want to term it, it's never going to happen for me. And if I hadn't had the heart attack, like I've said before, I was already working. We were working on these things prior to the heart attack. It would have taken us 10 years and we may not have got there because life would have continued to happen to us or whatever. This was just God saying, okay, I need to do something to get these guys to where I need them to be. And they're not going to get there on their own right now. So the heart attack to me is God saying, okay, hold on a second. You got to go do this so you can do what I'm asking you to do. It's just an opportunity that, I see it as the opportunity of our lifetime and everything we've want and didn't even know we wanted on the other side of this. And I'm a little bit paranoid about letting the opportunity pass us by. Cause I get sometimes, I think it all has to happen right at once. Cause, but I'm still healing. I'm still processing stuff like that. But it's just,
That's right. We have friends, we have support, everyone. Like that's the thing. Anyone who feels alone, reach out. Because people are on their journey thinking that they're alone and the only ones feeling this way, and that's not true.
Yep. All right. Well, this one question, we'll end this with one question. I think it's oh, maybe. Oh, I gotta erase this one. All right. This last one, we're going to end on this one. So what actions might we take to bring out take to bring out the best in each other? And I think Annette and I have talked about this. I think it's one of the things that, and we've talked to you guys about it as well, that, again, life has beat us down. We've gone through some hard stuff, even without the heart attack. The fact that her and I are still together, all the things that they say kill marriages, the stresses, we've had them 100-fold. I'm not saying there hasn't people that have been had a lot worse things, losing a child. I can't even imagine, some of those more horrific things in life. But for us, we've been through a lot and life has been very stressful. And I don't think either one of us has handled it well. We haven't handled it well as parents. We haven't handled it well as a couple. We haven't handled it well individually, probably led to my heart attack. So, one of the things that I want to do, is, I can't, and I said this in the story, and if I can't contribute, and I know it's not my responsibility, but if I can't contribute to give you guys, or at least create an environment or provide something that allows you guys to be the people that I saw, that God showed me, then I failed miserably. And I know it's not my responsibility. But I need to be able to contribute to that and steer things in a way that allows you to thrive, like the way I saw you thrive. And it scares me. It scares me that I'm thinking about this question a lot, in how we can help bring out the best in each other, because I think both of us agree that we don't, and we haven't for a while. But I love the fact that we're committed to talking about this and doing it. We know we're not going anywhere, and we have to figure these things out, and it's just another step in this. But for me, this is one of the most important questions, because again, I can't. All of this is for nothing if I can't. If I don't see you become that person, I don't.
Well, I mean, again, like you said, it's not your responsibility. I think that's kind of where we're. The best thing we can do is support each other. We have to know what that is.
Yeah.
So that open communication that you mentioned, like people aren't mind readers. Even if we're married couples, we don't know how to support people sometimes. So the best thing to do is ask, like, how can I support you in this? What do you need from me? So that, communicating about that. And then also, again, sounds cliche, but working on yourself. If I work on myself and I make changes in the way that I show up, there's no other option but the relationship to change. The way what we bring to the relationship forms that relationship. So I think the best thing we can do to bring out the best in each other is continue working on being the best selves that we can be as individuals, and then bringing that to the relationship and forming that, as Monica said, that team.
Yeah, I just think there's no other way to do that without turning to God and putting it in His hands and Him helping us. We've tried to do it on our own, and we just don't get there. We fall short, as a lot of people do. It's just, as intelligent as we both are, and one of us thinking they know everything. That was me.
That's debatable. Which one?
It's just we have to put this in the hands of God and allow Him to do what He needs to do for us, individually and collectively, and as parents. So, I love that we're committed to doing that. But Doug and Monica, anything you guys can think of, or anything you want to say, or answer the question?
I'll let Monica jump in and finish this off. But I will say what you both answered are the top two answers. If this was the Family Feud, it would have been number 1 and number 2, which is, doing what you can to make sure the other person blossoms into who they're supposed to be, whatever you can contribute, whatever you're supposed to contribute, taking your eyes off of yourself and focusing on what you can do to bless and serve and love and help that other person grow into who they're supposed to be. That's number 1 or 2. And the other one's the one that Annetta said, which is, change happens here first, right? Michael Jackson said the man in the mirror, or woman.
Saida Garrett wrote that. Michael didn't write that. Saida Garrett.
Okay. All right. My bad.
It was used Michael's voice to bring it to the people.
Right. That's right. It was, and the point is still true. So it really does have to start with us. We have to, if I make changes that I need to make to be a better person, then it's going to affect another person in a positive way. And they're most likely going to change as a result of my change. You can't change another person by direct action. So just give up that fantasy and work on yourself. Do what you can to love, serve, and support. And those two are, again, you guys nailed it. So Monica's probably got a major wisdom, but that's where I'll leave it.
Yeah, I like what Jay said, that bringing in the third cord of the strand or the rope into the relationship, because just praying together and praying for somebody, and I think remembering to ask God for help, because a lot of times, like you were saying earlier, Annetta, it doesn't take an emergency. Like we should be talking to Him about everything, and He is the third cord. I mean, we didn't just get married in front of God; we got married with God. So without Him, in Him all things hold together. without him, they don't. So just remembering to ask him and to check in and walk with him and pray for your spouse so that the Lord can give you a better understanding. It's kind of like when the football players or the whatever coach is on the field and he's got the headphones, he's listening to the guy on the top because he's seeing the stadium from a different view. So you want to get that viewpoint of what God created that person for and what that person needs. You know, sometimes Doug will do something really sweet, and I know the Lord's told him or put an impression on his heart to check in with me or do something for me. And then I can also tell when it's just Doug doing an idea that he came up with. I'm like, help was only helpful when it's helpful.
I think we have a lot of those moments too. On both sides.
Awesome.
All right,
Awesome.
well, hour and 42 minutes.
Hey,
We probably could have ended before we even started the questions, but you know.
I think the questions were good. I think they're going to help a lot of people. So
Anyway, yeah, this was fun. Again, I think, you know, we'll have you guys on again anytime you guys want to come on or take the show over one time. And you guys do show just the women one night. But I think there's a lot more fun in store for us all on the show and together when we get together. And I can't wait to wrap my arms around you both. And
Now get out here.
so
Yes.
you don't want to come to the snow.
We have snow. It just snowed in our mountains. My brother's up there now. 2 hours away.
I miss it.
Best of both worlds, snow, and then go to the
Why
beach.
did you say
after.
yes? Why did we move back? Why did you listen to me?
Let's end it on we can't wait to see you. We'll see you
That's right.
soon.
All right, guys. Yeah, I think we'll end it from here. We won't go to that next screen. In fact, I will move it out of here so I don't use it.
Was it
There
the
you
dating
go.
game where they used to do this?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It was the dating game that they did that. Anyway. All right. I'm going to put on a little music to see us out here. That's what I do.
And I'm going to ask you, Jay, to post the prayer that I love, the difference, that poem. I don't know if you guys know. That's one of my favorites, and that's just been going in my head right throughout this whole conversation. So I feel just moved to bring that out, post it. It's
Yeah, I don't know
the
if I'm
difference.
familiar with it, honey. You'll have to share it with me.
Yeah, I'll put it in the chat. It's just about asking God. Like, God's always there, ready to step in and help, whatever. We just have to be willing to take that step and ask.
amen.
Are you sick of all my music, honey, yet, by the way? I wouldn't ask you that on public so everybody sees it. I play these
Me,
things.
honey, or are you talking to Doug or Monica? Honey?
You, honey. Aneka, honey. Again, I play the same songs over and over and over. There's lots of them, but, you know.
That's fine. All right. Awesome.
Yeah, she's eating it in front of us. All right.
I know.
All right.
She's trying to provoke you guys to come out sooner. So.
Yes. Oh my
Soon.
gosh. I can smell it. I can smell it from here.
All right. Love you guys.
Love you.
Thanks,
Love ya.
everyone. Love
We're
you.
out.
Bye.
Mwah.